Okay, welcome back. Now we're going to push on with some resources on the Moodle, and one of them is the academic word list. Actually, just before I say that, last thing on the EBSCO database, you can access that from home, so do what you can with that database. You've got Radio National, you've got the ABC, general Googling, Wikipedia, the EBSCO database. So you've got quite a range of resources now. We're in week 2 of research. At the end of this week, bring your concept map, more detail on it. Not every single note that you make, but main ideas, right, that you've found this week. Bring it along for sharing and discussion. Then we're going to have week 3. Then that's pretty much it. End of research. Then we move to the writing phase. Okay. So it's heads down. Really throw yourself into the research, full on, and if you get a lot done, yeah, you're going to feel better and more in control if you keep up with that structure. Okay, let's go to vocabulary. And so in the first section of Moodle, there is a thing called, there's a little bunch, a little group here, the academic word list. I'll take you there on your computer. So 3, 2, 1. Yeah, and on the Moodle, so straight in front of you, these ones here. Now the first one we're going to visit, these are all academic word lists, and then AWL means the same thing. You'll be very familiar with this resource by the end of this term. Academic word lists. What is an academic word list? Anybody heard of the academic word list? The word lists themselves are here at this link. This is a Nottingham University, so Northern Midlands in the United Kingdom. Notice, see there's AC, academic, instead of EDU. A lot of British sites will have AC. Some New Zealand sites will do that as well. So if you do see an AC site, it's generally reasonable quality because it's academic. It's something to always be looking for when you're doing your research. Just have a good look at your link, and you can often tell things from little bits in the link. Okay, so the word lists are here, and we have these sub-lists. All right, what are these things? Let's go back home, and it will tell us. Academic word lists are, let's do the background here. These TAFE students get younger and younger. Avril Coxhead. Yeah, Avril Coxhead's from the University of Wellington, and a few years ago she asked herself a very clever question. And the question was, if we take biology and economics and law and history and musicology, and you think of any academic topic, what are those words in there that in any academic article are very frequent? That's a really good question, because, and it's relevant here, whether it's an academic thing or a professional field. That bunch of words is a strategically important bunch for you to get to know, and to know really well. As we say, collocation in English, you know inside out and back to front. So you don't just, what does it mean to know a word? Not just dictionary definition, but really knowing the word, knowing how to use it in a sentence, knowing all the different parts of speech, the noun, the verb, the adjective, the adverb, knowing collocations, knowing its opposite. That's kind of getting towards what knowing a word means. So if you have really strong capability, flexibility with those words. It doesn't matter what you're writing about. You've got this bunch of words that are quite academic sounding, that are going to contribute to your academic and professional style, that you can use in many contexts. Also, IELTS. If you're thinking of IELTS and you're going for your IELTS 7, 8, 9, whatever, then clearly it makes sense. One thing they look for is good vocabulary, high vocabulary, academic field. Doesn't matter what subject or topic you get, you've got to write an argument or a position piece or whatever. You've got control of that bunch of words. There are 570 words in there. So if you've got very good control of those, that's your foundation for all sorts of other, for most of your writing probably. Okay, so she found, so what did she do? She got 400 written academic texts, 3.5 million words. She got all of these different sorts, journal articles, web articles, university textbooks, 28 different subjects from 4 disciplines, arts, commerce, law and science. Then she counted how frequently and how widely different words we use. I don't think she went 1, 2, 3, I think she used a computer. She got the core vocabulary. She included on the list only the words that appeared at least 100 times in the corpus. We've mentioned that word before, the body of words, the 3 million. So all these words, that was the criteria, if you like. The standard was they had to appear 100 times. So they're pretty frequent. And at least 10 times in each of the 4 disciplines. A word that was found frequently in law, but rarely in science, for example, wasn't included. So this is different from your specialist words, isn't it, in each area. Of course, each area is going to have its own words that are quite special to it and no other area, pretty much. And that's another journey and another thing we'll talk about at another time. And those words, we'll do a session in here on finding good glossary. A glossary is a specialist dictionary. Yeah, the specialist dictionary in IT, accounting, ergonomics, psychology, whatever. You know, you need to get those resources as well. That's another project, along with all the other projects you're pursuing. But so she found 570 words there, and that's a bit much. So what she did is she broke them down into 10 sublists according to frequency. So sublist 1 has the most frequent words. There are some examples. There are roughly 50 words in each one. They're not quite equal in their number, like the number 10 is shorter. But so we go down in frequency, and if you remember, we've talked before about this, frequency in language has not a linear curve, but a kind of exponential decay. So what you find is your first 5 I think are about 80% of the total use of the academic word list, and you know, you're getting a lot less frequent once you go to your 10. So if you just have a look there, I think a lot of you will know a lot of those words. But if we jump down here, the likelihood is there's, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 that are less familiar to you. So here, we're obviously dealing with this territory. So what we're going to do, we're a little bit out of synchronization. We kind of ideally would have done this week 1. And we've got 10 weeks. So we're going to look at one list a week and just get really familiar with it. So let's have a look at the list. It's opening up a Word document, or should be, there it is, down there. So you'll see it in Microsoft Word. There's the list. It's alphabetical order, it's not by frequency, so within the list it's by alphabetical order. Now my guess is, if you look at that, it'll vary, of course. What we're going to have in the room almost certainly is that sort of curve. And a few names for this. It's a bell-shaped curve for obvious reasons. It's a bit like a bell shape. You know, it's that normal distribution curve that I'm sure you're all familiar with. Well, that's the other normal distribution. So if we did a test, and we could do it if you like, of your vocabulary size, we'd probably find something like that. And in the past, I have found that that point there is, is 8,000. That's right. At the moment, that's probably the average. And it will slide up by about 2,000 by the end of so get up to 10. It'll move to 10 probably by the end of the course. But clearly, some people are up here, and some people are here. There's going to be a spread. So, I would imagine, when people look at this, the people towards the higher end here are going to look, and maybe there's one or two that are a bit tricky. For other people, there'll be, more that are challenging. Basically, if you're up here, or anywhere, wherever you are, your aim is to fill the gaps, isn't it? Because probably your knowledge kind of is a bit like that. You've got a lot of them, but not all. So your job is going to be looking at that list. I'll show you how to work with it in a minute, but doing all the work and exercises and just getting thoroughly familiar with all those words so you can use them in whatever context. Now we're going to do this week by week, and the classic old Friday test that's been going on for the last 500 years in most educational institutions. We'll do the same old thing, the Friday test. I will throw you what you call a gap fill exercise. It'll just be a missing word in the sentence. I'll give you 10 words, you've got to put them in the right order. Simple as that. We'll work through our 10. And I think if you do that, you'll just get at least some familiarity with the gaps. Right? And some people have more gaps than others. That is the list. Now, we've looked at Cambridge Dictionary, and I'd recommend that. So if you don't know what these words mean, you could select it. And this is an interesting one because let's just go. I'm going to go to Google. Actually, no, I'll go diploma. Diploma, because we'll go into the Cambridge that you know about. And I'll just paste that one in there. Now, the key is here, it's different parts of speech, and this is what you're going to have to, with a word, knowing a word is knowing it in all its glory, isn't it? All its manifestations, all its appearances. So, variable in academic writing is much more this one. Sorry, noun, this one, here. A number, amount, or situation that can change. The variables in the equation, like science or maths, isn't it? Are X, Y, and Z. The data was analysed according to neighbourhoods, but other key variables like credit rating and marital status were ignored altogether. It's used over and over again in research. Can you see what it means here? It's like element or factor that is influencing a situation. So we have, in English, we say dependent variables and independent variables. Yeah? So you've got these two possible types of variable. And that's the way it's being used in the academic context in here. But so you need to know that. I mean, it's going to be hard for you to tell, isn't it? So what you have to do is just know them all. Know all the different forms. And what's nice about the Cambridge is we get the pronunciation. That's going to help you quite a bit because, if it shifts from an adjective to a noun, does it change? In this case, it doesn't, but some do. So you should listen to the pronunciation across the different parts of speech to see, does the stress shift? Yeah. And possibly listen to the American, British differences, and just look at the example sentences. As you know, in a native dictionary, you don't get those example sentences very much. You often don't get the pronunciation. You may not get the clues like that. Look, countable noun, isn't it? Noun C. You can say variables. But the word I wrote this morning, terminology, you can't say terminologies. So that probably wouldn't be in a native dictionary, but it's in a non-native, because countability is more of an issue for non-native. So I think what you need to do is jump between resources here. I mean, as we're building up a knowledge of resources, hopefully it's actually the interaction between some of these resources that make them most powerful, not just using them on their own. So here's a start where you're using different ones. So that's, let's see, word lists. That's where you'll find them. You just go in here. And you get to this page. Let's jump down to number 10, just have a look at the full scary list. Sublist 10. I think you'll feel kind of happy about some of that, because you'll think, oh yeah, I know what those mean. And they can change depending on their context a little bit. But, you know, probably that one, 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 you probably have no problem with. It's some of the others, depending on you. Okay, so look, these are the lists. We're just going to start with number 1, which is there. Now, what can we do with these? Go back to the Moodle. Really, sitting and looking at a boring old list and just looking in dictionaries is going to drive everyone crazy, and you're not going to get very far. So we need something to make us play around with these words. It's this one here. So that's the link I went into. The link above it is called, I've just called it the purple page, because it kind of, depending on your browser and screen, comes out kind of purpley blue. But purple page sounds better, doesn't it? So I'm calling it purple page. Okay, now, if you go in there, don't bother. That's just your first 3,000 words of English, which you all have got control of, because you've got an average of 8,000 words. Don't even bother with it. It's the link on the right-hand side. So you need to go in here, and each week you just move through the list. So this week, starting now, you're just going to play around with sublist 1. Now, they've done a couple of nice things here. If you scroll down to the bottom, you've got, that's the list. That is exactly the same as you'll see on your Word document. You can just click on them, and it will take you to a website. It's not taking you to the Cambridge, but it's the Longman, and it's giving you a definition there. So that, you know, you could use that resource. I'm not sure if they tell you countability and have you got a pronunciation thing there? Yeah, but what accent is it? I don't know. You know, Longman's pretty good for ESL material in lots of things. I'm going to show you some very nice resources in Longman. I just haven't played around with that one much. You could use that or use the Cambridge. So, there you go. You can get your quick definitions that way. Okay, it's using a West Coast Canadian accent. All right, there you go. So if you practice with those enough, yeah, in 3 years' time somebody will say, oh, you're from the West Coast of Canada, aren't you? If that's the kind of identity you want, go for it. Everyone likes Canadians. You know, there's a stereotype. Every country has a stereotype, which is usually false. The stereotype of the Canadian, everybody loves Canadians. Isn't that a nice stereotype to have? Okay, how do these work? Well, whoever made this site, what they do is they take the sublist, which is about 50 words, and they break them down into smaller groups. And if you look at the groups, it's a little bit tricky. They've got 6 groups. So here's the first group. So it's roughly, if we say 50, 54, it's about, well, it is 10 words actually in each group. So if we take group 1 and the first exercise, we go in there, you get this kind of thing. Alright, now, your job is simply to, fill in the gap. These, I've mentioned before, this is called a close with a Z, not close the door, which is an S. This is a close exercise, collocation. And you've probably done a million of these before in different English classrooms or other language classrooms. Very familiar. All right, what would you put in here? Analysis. Look, there's a little clue, isn't there? It's an, so it's got to be a vowel. Yeah. All right. Now we could check it. Yeah, all right, I'm on 10%, that's about right. Yeah. So we get our little smiley face and so on. So you can work your way, what I would do is probably check it at the end. You know. The other thing that's important that will give you a bit of help for you when you do a test is, of course, if you have a look at that, what part of speech has to fit in there? Is it a verb, adjective, noun?
No.
It has to be a noun, doesn't it? He did a thing of the way, yeah. So let's practice with the next one. He was arrested for drunk driving because he had drunk more than the something limit of alcohol. What part of speech are we looking at here?
No.
I'm hearing noun, verb and adjective. Anyone want to go for adverb? Adjective, isn't it? Because there's your noun, limit. It's describing the limit. So it's going to be an adjective of some kind. So this may be a help to you because you can sometimes look at endings and it might be a clue. Right. Hearing a few legal, and if you think of AL, yeah, final, legal, etc. There's an AL, that's a little suffix that often makes an adjective in English, isn't it? So what I suggest you do is with each of these, this is really good practice anyway for vocabulary and grammar skills and word guessing especially, is to look at a blank and say what is missing here. Is it a noun, verb, adjective, adverb? This is number one rule for guessing new vocabulary, which we'll do later. But so it's going to give you that practice as well. And then of course, then you can, the other thing it will do, give you practice in thinking, oh, AL, yes, okay, my guess is confirmed here because it's got a adjectival ending. We could see. Yeah, we got that one. Hey? Oh yeah, we did. Why is it saying only 10%? It should say 20. I don't get it.
We didn't answer the rest.
Yeah, but anyway. All right, you get the idea. Now, okay, just let's have a look at these. Analysis, the noun, legal adjective. Okay, now if we go back, let's just choose another one, still within the same group, 1D. Now let's have a look at these words. Look, illegal, it's become an opposite. Yeah. And what was our other one? Analysis, it's become analysing. Yeah? So the point is, different part of speech, isn't it? It's taking us through all the different, what we call permutations, like combinations, grammatical combinations of that word, and giving you practice within a sentence context. And you can see the sentences are not too difficult. They are relatively short and make immediate sense most of the time. There are not too many words in there that I think you will have problems with. So it's reasonably well designed in that respect. So that will give you practice with those 10 words, right? Now we haven't finished the sub-list. You go to number 2, number 3, 4, 5. If we just look at, say, group 6, B, at random, there's another bunch there, isn't there? And those words there are going to be cycled and recycled within group 6 through all their different parts of speech. Distribute, distribution, distributive, distributing, you see? It'll take you through that practice. So there's quite a lot there, obviously. Every week we move on. So, I mean, can you work your way through all of those in a week? I don't know. Some people do. Again, with most tasks, I'll set a task, and we'll have some people who, do every one, and we'll have some people who do hardly any. It's over to you. You're adult learners. I show you the resource and the strategy. It's up to you. And all will be revealed in the Friday test, won't it? How well you do. All I'm going to do for the Friday test is close my eyes, and at random I'll pick one. It could be exercise 4C, and I'll throw it at you. If you've done that on Wednesday morning and got them all right, cool. You probably get your 100%, right? Yeah, this Friday we'll work with sublist 1. So, obviously doing them all is going to be better than not doing them. However, if you are short of time, then what you need to do is do at least one from each group, isn't it? Because then you are working your way through all the words. Don't just start here and do all of those, because then you're not getting practice in those words at all. It's more important that you move across. Say you did that, do a couple a day, 1, 2. So there's Monday, there's Tuesday, there's Wednesday. Okay, Thursday you go boom and then pick another one there, ding, you know, and yeah, just distribute your energy and time evenly across those subgroups of sublists, if you see what I mean. Alright, now I'll just show you again where these are on the Moodle. There. Okay, so we're in vocabulary and we're a bit of the way down. I'll come back to this one in a minute, but that's the exercises. It's just called the purple page. It's about number 20 down. Sure. Everything on the Moodle you can do from home, and I would expect 95% of your practice, or 100%, will be at home. And the other one where you actually get the lists themselves, if you do want them in Word, it's that first site I showed you is there, but you do actually have the list, of course, there, don't you? Which I showed you before. You know, if you scroll down, you get the list. So that's a start. I'll show you some of these other resources to do with the academic word list in a minute. But why don't you get in there, get into the Moodle, just make sure you can find those links, and have a bit of a play around, right, with those. And especially that purple page. You know, make sure you can find that and get in there and have a play around with those exercises. Have 10 minutes doing that.